and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to the town of Highlands. We have what I'll predict as a short meeting tonight, but regardless of how short it is, it's still necessary. Before we start, which on our agenda is usually public comment, and actually I don't even have an agenda with me. That's nice. But okay, I do that often. I don't know why. Thank you. If like tonight, we're having a meeting as advertised without general public. But if there is anyone in the general public that feels as though it's necessary for them to come to the meeting and talk to the board, we can make arrangements. It doesn't have to be completely empty. We can make arrangements for someone to come in at a certain time, and they can sit in a certain place, and they can address the board and then leave. So it's not as if we're not allowing people to come and speak, but it's with this pandemic that we have to do things in a certain manner. Virtual meetings are an option, but we've kind of, at least two of us have decided that we're not that interested in a virtual meeting. But that doesn't mean we can't have them if it becomes necessary. So that's it for public comment. Does anyone have anything? Richie, Ty, Richie? Public comment?
No.
Okay. In the previous minutes, you should have gotten within the last 5 minutes. There was a mistake on that, so we'll hold that off until our next meeting. Rather than try to approve them, that minutes that we haven't gone through. Financial report, we paid out $23,904 on April the 22nd. The larger items were Durham's, $2,082, which was for sanitation, highway, ambulance vehicle maintenance. Reed Systems, $12,890. That's highway equipment spreader, which I think we almost needed it the other day there with the hail coming down here in May. Royal Carding, $2,360 for landfill charges. And we also paid out $12,502. That was on April 29th. The larger items were Prokosh and Sons sheet metal for an exhaust. Let's see, that was $2,257 for Beacon Recycling. Then $2,672 for sanitation for recycling also. I'm not sure if I wrote that down right. And Orange and Rockland, $2,664 for streetlights. Board liaison report. Let's start with Councilman Parry.
Just to repeat, I just thank the town employees, the Highway Sanitation Department, for them continuing to do what has to be done so people can stay in their homes. And actually, a thank you to all town employees for their efforts during these trying times. And I believe things are being taken care of in a timely manner, and hope that continues. That's it.
Thank you. Councilman Sullivan?
Good evening. Can you hear me, Tierney?
I can.
I actually went for a blood test the other day, and they told me that my CO2 level was high. Can you imagine that with a mask on, you know? So, wanted to make sure you could hear me. Anyway, Water District. The fire hydrants had their annual flushing, and the water quality report will be mailed out within the next month. The plant at Corbin Hill is functioning nicely. It gets visited about once a week. They've made some changes in there which have worked out well. The Consolidated Zoning Board of Appeals, so Bob just mentioned virtual meetings. They've practiced, they've made a valiant effort. They will be meeting on May 20th remotely. On the Town of Highlands website, if you go to Highlands Online and go down to online meeting information, you will find the link for that meeting. It's also in the legal notices of the newspaper. So I can't, it's a million words, I can't describe it here. So it's out there. They have 3 things on their agenda. A public hearing on 26 Mine Dock Park, Thayer Flats, the building up the road with Mick Minicozy, and the Deborah Copeland interpretation has been postponed. It's on the agenda. It was in the legal notice. That'll be postponed until June. And so I read where the link is at. I can't thank Kelly enough. I've pestered her a lot. I think she's going to host the meeting. They practice, so she's got it all set to go. And they're going to give it their best shot to meet the executive order and whatever laws apply to it. So that's a go for May 20th. In the building department, Phil Panawalt is back part-time. Bruce is bringing back slowly as we open up, which I guess we have to figure that all out. He's open for business, for applications, for requests. There's a process you have to go through. He's extension 332. He's been in every day from what I've seen. I think he's here every morning about 6:30. He's not, not missing any time. And so if people need something from that office, you can't just walk into the building, call the number, leave a message, email him. The work is getting done. So he's there doing his thing. On the sewer, a little bit of action down at the sewer plant. The dechlorination system is about to be certified. We had a couple of things we had to go through with TAM last week to make sure the plant water, there's 2 water systems. The domestic, which is a well, and there's a plant water system, which is clean water going out of the plant effluent. Wouldn't drink it, but it's effluent, sewer treated water. Had a little problem with that. We got that going so that the dechlorination and the chlorination systems are up and running. Our operator, Jimmy Kiernan, has been doing a fabulous job. He's been busy. And I spent a little bit of time today because there's a lot of emails of reports that they're not getting. They're still going to Bob Held, whose email has been decommissioned. I think I got most of that fixed. And finally, last Friday, had a very successful virtual meeting, remote meeting, with the Citizens Environmental Advisory Committee. Olga Anderson and Mindy Kimball, along with Kelly, our comptroller's help, have done a wonderful job spearheading doing energy use, graphing it all out where it's going, our carbon footprint, and that was done by a cadet named Jackson Zhu, if I said it, XU, however you say XU. He's a Cal, meaning a junior. He'll be back next year. When this all kind of clears up, I would like to have them here to recognize him and have him present the report. It's pretty wonderful. And I'd be making errors to tell you what it's all about, except to say, if you can see this balloon, that's the size of a metric ton of carbon dioxide. Our town produces 292 of those a year. And that's my report.
Thank you, sir. Councilman King.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening, everyone at home. I do have a few notes this evening. I'm going to start with the police force, town of Highlands, that is. What we're being told by the chief, and happy to hear, is that all the shifts that are required are being covered. And then additionally, the chief and the deputy chief are rotating their weeks of coverage. Patrol has assisted in some birthday party celebrations, which has been a good thing. If you hadn't seen that, they get out and create a parade of sorts to the person's home. And chief is actually saying that they have invited other police forces to join in on that. But that's going over well. The patrol took part in the intermediate schools parade last weekend. And a lot of folks were cheered up by that, and so they enjoyed being a part of that. New patrol vehicle 114 is just about done and waiting for it to be delivered. They install radios at no expense for us. Fortunately, our police force have not experienced any illness due to coronavirus, and all the officers are accounted for and healthy, so we're happy to hear that. Now, moving on to recreation. Right now, rec is planning for summer rec programs. I mean, whether it happens or not remains to be seen, but the planning is going on. I want the community to be confident that the planning is taking place. They will prepare to open up until they hear different from the county or the state, meaning our recreation department. Also, beginning the process of getting counselors and lifeguards. So those folks who have those qualifications, reach out, please, to our recreation department. The permit has already been submitted to the Department of Health. Brooks Park remains open, and there has been no issues. And this is also corroborated by the police force. They've been continuously to do regular patrols out there, and their first course of action, if they have any issues, is to educate people on the parking policies, and there's been no real problems. So that's a good news story as well. Then we got the ambulance corps. Good news down at the ambulance corps. They responded to 34 calls in the month of March and 37 calls in the month of April. The volunteers have logged some significant hours here. For the month of March, 840 hours, volunteer hours taking place. And for the month of April, 860 hours. So a big thank you to all the volunteers of our esteemed ambulance corps. It is important that Jeff wanted us to know that not only are they volunteering, they are performing their duties with exceptional valor, and we are pleased to hear that and proud of them, to include those paid EMTs as well. So hats off to our ambulance corps. They have still been using the loaner vehicle, 386, but it's been taken out of service due to searing, and so they're back to using 385. They are green, as we say in the military, on PPE. They have had a shipment delivered by Kurt Hahn, our emergency management liaison or director, and so they are good to go in the word of PPE. Now, that being said, our which is the next directorate, Dollar she reported that there's still some shortages for the personnel that drive the buses, and but knowing that Kurt was able to get this for the ambulance corps, I don't see a problem. We'll take care of the dial bus as well. I just probably need to link the two together. But there is another issue that Colleen's concerned about, and that's the audit. You're probably aware that she has this annual audit or biannual audit. So looks like, I think Kelly has said maybe June timeframe we can get it done. But I just want to put that on your radar. And last but not least, I got the senior liaisons. Ann Molina continues to pick up food 2 nights a week and deliver and distribute out to folks who need that help. And along with that, we have the food pantries to continue to stay stocked full of stuff. So if there are people out there that are hurting in terms of food assistance, then please just reach out to either the center, or you can go on the Facebook page of the town of Highlands. You could call any of us, the board members or myself directly, if you need assistance with food. But there is food to be had, and that's a good news story. Also, the center, the Chamber of Commerce, the American Legion, and are all partnering with Orange County Legislator Lori Tortel to get some specific child-size masks, that is, for children. Apparently, some of these don't fit properly, and so they want to try to get some specifically, and Lori is helping spearhead that. So we appreciate the support from Orange County Legislator Tortel. First responder banners. If folks can recall, for the last couple of years, we've had banners in the community that celebrate military service. Well, this year, initiative is taking place to not only celebrate the military, as we've always done, but also celebrate the first responders. So you could purchase a banner in honor of your loved one who is a first responder. It goes up in the community, and everybody gets to highlight that. But the proceeds that come from that, half of it goes back into first responder organizations. And so that's another effort that's led up by the center. And so if anyone is interested, they can contact the center, and they can send any donations that they would like to 274 Main Street, Highland Falls, New York. And concluding here, I just want to say a big thank you to the community at large in the town of Highlands for your effort to stay vigilant during this pandemic, practice social distancing, wearing a mask, staying home, and really doing a great job supporting one another. A lot of folks are donating food and other items to help their neighbor. So hats off to our community here, and job well done. Let's continue to do that. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, thank you. You mentioned child's masks. Aaron and Charlene Yale were out in front of the town hall, I think a week ago, with masks that were donated from the garrison at West Point. They were giving them out, and he had some kind of bags of food that he was giving out also.
Oh, wow.
So that was Aaron, our recreation director, and Charlene Yale, who's been very involved in the community as of late.
Yes.
Then adult masks, we got a supply from Kurt Hahn of 500 masks for adults, and in particular 55 and older. So we kind of got the kids and we got the 55 and older. I turned those masks over to Chris Burns, and of course I asked him first if he could help through his organization, the Highlanders, and see if he could give some out. He did an excellent job. He went around, sat in front of Rite Aid, sat in front of the My Town Market. At Rite Aid, not Rite Aid, it's Walgreens. At Walgreens, Clarissa, who works there, had a batch of these masks that she gave out on Senior Day at Walgreens. So the masks were taken care of pretty well, and that was 500 masks. He's still got a few left, but and Kurt Hahn is the one that supplied those. It seems like the Hanes Underwear Company have put out a whole load of these masks, because I saw that the state was getting these and handing them down and what have you. So it's kind of nice, and they're pretty decent masks. They're very comfortable to wear. Highway cleanup. If anybody might have noticed, there were people out on 9W cleaning up the sides of the road, picking up trash, and those people were from Vision, the Fort Montgomery Battle Site, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Rotary. So my thanks to those groups for their work along the highway. I had the town police put out cones in certain areas where it was kind of dangerous, where there's no shoulders to the road, and they did stay out there with the car following them. At the same time, talking about the highway, and I won't mention any names with this, our town highway department, if you're familiar with in Fort Montgomery, the big cement strip down the center of the road that is usually full of weeds and dirt and junk and everything, well, right now it's immaculate. It was cleaned off completely. They used the the cat with the brushes on it, and that just scraped them right on up. And there was very little labor to do it, other than doing the work of running the cat back and forth and whatever have you. So they did a great job, and I received a phone call from one of our local citizens. I happened to be sitting with Pat in my office, and she started to tell me how great it was, that she almost cried when she saw it. And I said, whoa, wait, stop. I want you to repeat this all again. I put him on speaker, and I let Pat talk to her. So that's nice. It's nice that we do something, and we get credit by just a simple phone call. I think I'm 1 week ahead of the governor, but I sat listening to him today, shaking my head, but it's not really a knock against the governor, it's the situation. Okay, now, how do we open up New York again? And he's got his 4 phases that he wants to go through and all the different rules and regulations for the phases. And recreation that you mentioned is in the 4th phase. It's supposed to be 2 weeks in between each phase. So that puts us almost into July. I don't know about summer programs, but like I told Aaron, I said, Aaron, plan on having them, but also have a rescue plan where you're not going to have them. Now, I sent out to all the department heads in the town, I think I sent a copy to the town board also. How are we going to reopen the town hall? That's my mini problem. The governor's got a major problem, this is my mini problem, but just as, maybe not as hard, but just as complicated as his problem. And my suggestions I put out were to encourage online payments where possible. And if it's not possible, we need to see if we can open up some accounts that can be handled online. Encourage the U.S. postal mail. If you got a ticket, drop it in the mailbox. We want to see if we can fix, the village has a drop box out in front of the village hall. I want to see if we can't somehow get something like that, and I don't know where that's coming from at this time. People waiting outside are going to have to comply with social distancing. Hand sanitizers, which are available now, we've got them on a few walls here. There's one over there and one by the door downstairs. Temperatures should be taken for anybody coming in the building for a while. We've got the thermometers, whatever they call it. What is it, remote thermometer? No-touch thermometer, whatever.
Thermometer? Yeah.
So we've got them ordered. We don't have them yet because everything's on back order. They're suggesting that there be no fees or plans required for outdoor seating for restaurants. And that's not something for me. I'd like to put a disclaimer in, but if anybody wants to put out a patio temporarily or permanently, we're asking that there be no fees or plans required for that. And I also noticed on the governor's briefing, he has an idea of outdoor patios, but what he doesn't realize is the Department of Health has to approve it, and the State Liquor Authority has to approve it. So that's not going to be a way out for restaurants, in my opinion. Where possible, use electronic permits and virtual inspections. That's again, has to be set up. Like I said, I sent this out to all the departments, and I asked them to get back to me with suggestions. Already, Kelly has gotten back to me. She wants a door cut in half, but that should be no problem. And what else did she have on here? Disinfecting the building, disinfecting different parts of the building. And the bathrooms, so basically disinfecting everything, which, again, you can say that, but you've got to have the equipment to do the disinfecting and the person to do it. So I'm not sure how we're going to work with that or what we're going to do.
Supervisor, may I?
Yes, ma'am.
I just spoke to ServPro today, and I gave Kelly the price to put in with that recovery money or whatever, and it was just under $1,600 to sterilize the entire building.
One time.
Yes, yes. Just so you know.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's what we've got to do. We've got to figure out what the prices are and what we can afford to do. And if you're saving lives, it doesn't matter the expense. But at the same time, you look at this room here. This room, other than us, hasn't been used. And the virus only lasts, 3 days or something like that?
I don't know.
So am I right about 3 days?
On surfaces.
Yeah, so why are you going to sanitize this entire room? And all the offices are private right now. They at least been private for the last month. So that's a good question. We want to spend $1,600 for that. Okay. Now, we get this magazine from the Association of Towns, and in the magazine, I read it, Coronavirus Update for Local Governments, and I came across here town board meetings, and it suggests that the supervisor be giving the power, if that's the right word, to cancel meetings and to have meetings. Now, right now, the way it stands is if I want to have a meeting next week, Tuesday, I need the board to vote on it. And am I correct on that? Yeah, I need the board. But that's, I have no problem with the board getting a hold of everybody and what have you. But at the same time, this resolution that I sent this magazine article to Justin. Justin put it in the form of a resolution and thought it was a decent idea. And Justin, you can,
Sure. Right, it just creates more flexibility based on the circumstances you're dealing with. Similarly, right, you have a regularly scheduled meeting for May 25th, and this would allow the supervisor, if not a lot of new matters were on, right, in his discretion, he could cancel it. Again, he has to be reasonable, right? And there's some standards put in, and he has to be able to justify his rationale for taking action. But it does just give, under these circumstances, a little more flexibility to being able to manage. Obviously, as you all know, you've been doing your best to keep all of your regularly maintained meetings, but this just gives one more ability for action in these times. And was sort of being recommended by the Association of Towns, but. So this is a straightforward resolution, again, that would give the supervisor that ability in his reasonable discretion and for good cause shown to either schedule or cancel regular or special meetings.
would anyone like to move the resolution?
Make the motion.
I'll second it.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember King,
Aye.
Councilmember Perry,
Aye.
and Supervisor Lipsy.
Thank you all for your trust.
I need an aye.
Aye.
I need an aye, thank you.
All right. On the agenda, we have a resolution to, well, I don't have the resolution, to recognize highway and sanitation workers as first responders. I would like to add to table that until our next meeting. Meanwhile, I would appreciate it if the board would read Justin's thoughts on it. He sent out an email on it.
Aye,
Yes?
you sent it?
Yeah, I got to make sure that I don't know if I sent it to everyone or if I
I'll
sent it
make
to
sure
you
you
and
did.
the highway superintendent. So
You
I
did.
can.
It was me and the highway superintendent.
So I can make sure I forward that tomorrow. to everyone.
Okay, all right. Okay, any other business?
Just an observation. Was Francine Meyer here when you started as supervisor,
Yes,
as a comptroller?
yes.
Most of us remember driving by and seeing a light on at 10 o'clock at night. She didn't even come in till like 1 o'clock in the afternoon so she could get her work done. In regard to how we come back in, I think that the remote thing for Kelly has worked out rather well. So if they need to stagger people in that office, I think Elaine has been enabled to do some remote payroll stuff. I think that's working out well. And I wanted to say that Bruce has a plan in the building department for him and Phil not to be in there together at the same time for the most part. Philip is actually going to work, I think, from Tuesday to Saturday. He's going to work Saturdays and have Sundays and Mondays off. So they have some pretty good plans. Bruce was also interested in a barn door also. I think those have become permanent fixtures in the building after, just like the town clerk has right now. And like I said in that one email, Village Hall, the public only goes in as far as the glass thing to begin with. This building's much different. As people enter, they're going into the building, so I don't think those are very costly or, I think they're valid concerns that they have. And
Yeah, I
I think
concur.
Kelly's done a fantastic job through this whole thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
I would concur with my colleague, and I would also say that potentially consider, appointments, right? So whatever you did normally to walk in and do, now you have to make an appointment to do it. So we can prepare for that.
You're a mechanical sort of a person. Can we just literally cut a door, put two hinges, extra ones, and cut a door in half?
It would depend where the middle hinge is. It might be too high to just do that. I think you're probably gonna have to remove it and put another door in without turning it into a big deal. And I think Bruce was actually chasing down some prices for that, if I'm
All
not
right,
mistaken. But the middle hinge, say if it's like at my chest level and you cut it, that's a no-can-do. And you need more than one hinge holding the door on. So it might be a little bit more involved than that, but it won't be anything horrendous, I don't believe.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so that's, things like that are simple and not costly and can do the job. Anything else?
Yeah, I had one last thing I wanted to say in regard to emergency services. Just because it appears to be an emerging trend where, at one time in this pandemic, we're told that, it really didn't impact children as much or very much at all. And so now, if you're watching the briefings on federal level and state level, is talking about there's this emerging trend where these young children are getting very ill. And it's not the same type of coronavirus that the adults have gotten, but it's a derivative of. So I would say to our community, just be vigilant, just be, because again, I have seen very, very young people without masks early on in this thing, and that's because probably an assumption that it's not going to get me. But I like to see the direction we're going with Lori Totel and Aaron and Charlene acquiring these PPE items for the very young people.
Yeah, I think they went from 3 in New York State to the latest, they're up to 90 now.
Yeah,
So that's really,
it's something to watch, for
Yeah.
sure.
Justin, got anything?
All set, Supervisor.
Okay. Once we get past this, and by the way, down at Brooks is on the ball field side of the road. We posted signs, no parking on Saturdays and Sundays, and I've done that through my emergency powers, is declare an emergency. Once we get past this, we think we need to get into our ordinance, find where we have no parking signs, either make them legal or not legal, and get the parking,
Yeah.
no parking squared away.
That's a huge project if you were trying to go through all the ordinance. I'm sure, like the one where I live at on Montgomery Road, was implemented back when Richie's dad was a supervisor. I'll bet nobody can find it, but I know it exists. So, not now, but like if Ponytail were in session right now, they wouldn't be able to have a weekend game and park down there. We'll deal with that in the future as time goes on, but I'm thankful for the work that you've done down there to keep the park open under these conditions.
And I think it's working well. These last 2 weekends, I guess, with closing the road, it doesn't get jammed up inside. And the one weekend they did kill us on the road there, but we're okay now.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
So carried. Thank you all very much.